talk about today.
Okay guys, do you know what I just read on the news just now regarding the post effect of Taman Sri Muda flood incident? And I think we need to discuss regarding the survival of the B40 groups at Taman Sri Muda.
Oh, what is the problem of the issue?
Okay, so guys, the main issue that I can see here is the survival of the B40 group itself toward the post effect of the flood in Taman Sri Muda. So, according to the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, B40 group is the most vulnerable group during the flood incident happened. And as we know, the flood disaster will bring so much negative impact toward the citizen and will cost them lots of money for maintenance. And the most significant effect that we can see is the damages and also loss of property. So the main issue arises when the B40 group itself faced the financial crisis to remain survive and alive to get their quality of life right after the incident happened. And as we can see, and we know that most of them are unemployed due to the fact that we are facing the COVID-19 earlier this year, and it was also one of the reasons that lead them to face the financial crisis, which will then make them difficult to survive the post effect because it will cost them a lot of money for maintenance in terms of for the vehicles and also their house. And then those that cannot afford the maintenance of their house will need to stay at the temporary house provided, or they need to stay at their families or any relatives' house, while those that have no families, they need to spend more money to find their next house to stay for a while. And then the bigger issue that I can see here is the survival of the B40 groups that involve in their own businesses, that their main income coming from the businesses, especially those in the small medium enterprises, where they need to spend more money on buying the equipments and also their electrical appliances, since most of them has been broken during the incidents. And then actually all this effect has made the B40 groups to face the hard times to continue survive and continue living their own life. And then the fail in surviving will lead them towards poverty, as many of them they did not have enough saving and money to continue living and pay for maintenance for their house and vehicles and buying for their equipments and their needs, basic needs. Otherwise, they are being helped by the government or any other NGOs that are involved.
Okay, Najwa, what are your thoughts about the concept related to this issue, or do you have any theory in mind that could relate to this issue?
So, from the situation, we can see the hardship faced by the residents of Sri Muda in order to survive after the flood. And obviously, the most affected people are those from B40 group, because they may not have enough saving to survive the following days or for the maintenance. So what can I conclude here is residents in Sri Muda, especially B40 groups, barely survive due to lack of preparation to face the flood situation. As we can see, and also as reported in the news, the area of Sri Muda is prone to slightly flooding every time it rains heavily, and usually the situation is not that bad. So maybe that is the reason why residents in Sri Muda didn't prepare much, since usually the situation is under control. Hence, this kind of behavior can be related to the theory of planned behavior by Eisen, where there are a few variables that's explained under this theory, and the one that is related to this situation is the subjective norms. Subjective norms can be defined as the perceived social pressure to perform or not to perform the behavior. And generally, under this theory, the more favorable the attitude and subjective norm toward a behavior, and the greater the perceived behavior control, the stronger should be a person's intention to perform the behavior under consideration. Hence, when there is no social pressure from family or neighbors to make preparation in terms of saving and so on, obviously the residents have to survive harder when the situation occurs more than expected. Let's say if everyone is aware of the situation, for example, the climate change, which can worsen the flood situation, obviously everyone will prepare for the worst. At least they can save some money for the post-flood survival. But if everyone in Sri Muda are not aware of the situation and suddenly things went more than usual, with no preparation, or the preparation is just enough for usual flood situation, they might have to went through a serious storm even after the flood. Thus, this is what the theory of planned behavior is all about, when the behavior of a person is actually influenced by the social pressure from the social group.
What analysis can be made regarding this issue?
There are two analyses of the issue. The first one is the resident called unprepared. The resident receives to move out elsewhere because of the higher costs will involve. In addition, the massive flood only had happened on December 25, 1995. Besides, that area is a well-planned city. It is middle class and not a slum. Moreover, they also did not anticipate the area could experience a deluge of floodwaters as bad as that day, even though Taman Sri Muda is prone to flash floods. In addition, Mr. Kevin Lim, a resident of Sri Muda for over 28 years, gave a statement that his family had no insurance for anything as most of the money was used to survive the COVID-19 pandemic. This shows that they are having a financial crisis and left no savings to survive. Hence, there were no preparation were made beforehand by the B40 residents, especially in handling the aftermath of the flood tragedy. As a result, the B40 group cannot survive the post-flood as there are no preparation to face the flood tragedy. The second analysis is a lack of planning from the authority. Taman Sri Muda was built on a low-lying land located close to the Klang River that was suited use as a floodplain. Flood occurrences had become more frequent in recent years in urban areas because of the loss of flood storage due to the development extending into and taking over the floodplains and drainage corridors. Moreover, there are also no mitigation plan to prevent the floods from the authorities. All in all, the floods which submerged nearly 9,000 homes, which most of them are from B40 and M40 groups, are given a huge impact. The resident of B40 family faced the difficulty to survive after the flood.
Is there any initiative, especially by the government, to settle down this issue?
Oh yeah, yesterday I read about several solutions for victims of the recent floods, where B40 has received humanitarian monetary aid of 1,000 ringgit. TNB, on the other hand, provided free electrical wiring inspection for B40's household on their CSR. However, I think this program can only help B40's family to survive in short term, and it cannot determine their survival in the future. And for your information, Pelindungan Tenang is one of the efforts from the government and BNM to help people, especially for B40's family, preparing their own emergency savings in their future. Pelindungan Tenang products are basic insurance which offer financial protection against unfortunate disaster. The subscriber only need to pay 75 ringgit per annum, and my personal best solution that B40 can have is to spend on the Pelindungan Takaful, where they can secure their survival rate in the future.
Oh, I see. So do you have any ideas or initiative that can be the solution for this issue?
Actually, I already think about an alternative solution for flood problems by increasing the flood alertness system. The government need to prepare more on the flood risk fund with improving the efficiency of flood defense. We take Netherlands for our example. Through their room for river policy, they managed to intervene their flood problems greatly. A high level of dam and levees is their main reason why they are well-known country that can intervene the flood problems. However, this action need to be revised in detail because this effort will take a long-term planning and a lot of fun.
What is the integration for this issue?
Finally, I will explain the integration part of the assignment, which will focus on the values that have been learned throughout the discussion. On the perspective of society itself, they must take precautionary measures to prevent unwanted things from recurring, as for example, major flood that has been occurred. They may not be able to survive for a long time if they do not take precautions in the event of an oncoming disaster. This is due to the fact that society need to set aside more funds in order to continue living. Those who do not have a strong financial foundation are likely to grow poorer as a result of their lack of planning. As for example, during the tragedy of major flood at Taman Sri Muda, the locals were just unprepared for the floods. Almost every household in the area lost furniture, clothing and electronic devices as a result of the disaster. This is because society at Taman Sri Muda did not expect the tragedy of the Great Flood to happen after the first Great Flood that occurred 26 years ago in 1995. It is vital that community people be equipped with the required skills and knowledge in order to manage floods in a sustainable manner to ensure that they can survive for the oncoming disaster. As previously noted in relation to alternative flood solutions, it is the government's responsibility to increase funding for the Flood Risk Fund and improve the flood defense efficiency, as the government must invest more to assist society during disasters. To conclude, both society and government must be well prepared and make emergency savings in order to avoid massive disasters that would cause the community unable to survive in the long run.
Guys, I think I have to go first because I need to pick up my mom.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye!
See you later.